I just want to make a few thank yous at this stage, just to all our guest speakers, in particular Banning Garrett and Jeanette Bainbridge. We're absolutely delighted you were here, and I think you really added to the whole day's event. And also our speakers who participated in the reprise of the four, rather, I want to thank myself, four areas: Martina McLaughlin, Fergus Shanahan, Charlie Sheridan and Lelia Arnay. And of course our excellent panel here this afternoon. I'd also like to thank Aidan O'Driscoll, Secretary General of the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. This process that has concluded, at least one section of it has concluded today. It's been going on now for quite some time, several months, and I do like to acknowledge the team that brought it all together. A few people in particular: Tom Morden, former Secretary General of the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, who chaired the steering group and did so splendidly. Also the distinguished steering group made up of national and international experts across a whole swathe of technologies in the agri-food and wider bioeconomy space. The 200 scientists or so, but my own colleagues, and in particular those from other universities and institutes of technology, both here and outside of Ireland. They really were the people that contributed at the coalface, so to speak. They participated in several technical working groups, deserve huge credit. We were facilitated in our deliberations by Patrick Cree and Associates, and indeed a former colleague of ours, Owen Carton, and I do want to acknowledge that contribution. My own colleagues who were involved in the organisation of today's event, who were closely involved, I do want to particularly acknowledge. I can't name everyone, there's too many, and it's always dangerous to name anyone, but I have to mention a few people. Frank O'Mara, who's Director of Research in Teagasc, and indeed he also had to present a keynote address this morning, and Frank's leadership was immensely important in this whole process thus far. His colleagues Jane Kavanagh, Anne Tiernan and Hilary King, who did Trojan work over the last number of days to produce the booklet and so on. And I do, of course, especially want to thank Lance O'Brien, who really was the absolute linchpin and spearhead behind this whole endeavour. Lance is a Foresight veteran now, and I was going to say, well, I'll say it anyway, he's one of two experts, at least that I know in the audience, on Foresight. The other has just left as the former director of Teagasc, Liam Downey. Look at, from Teagasc's point of view, this is only the start. Frank set out in his paper, in his presentation, the importance of the next phase. And indeed, some of the issues were highlighted here in the discussion. We have huge opportunity, but opportunity won't be reaped unless the appropriate investment is made. And I was smiling to myself when the speaker, one of the speakers there, just raised the issue of broadband access. I can tell you where I live anyway. I don't have mobile phone access at the weekends or evenings. Indeed, maybe that's often a blessing, actually, you know, I have to say, but it's certainly a real issue. The other point I would make is that there are issues that are raised in this report that have relevance not just to Teagasc, but to the wider research community in Ireland that are focused on supporting the agri-food sector and the wider bioeconomy. There is no doubt, and I make no apology for saying this, that apart from building up our broadband capability, which is critical in so many respects to what we discussed today, but we do also need resources in building back up again the scientific capability that has been eroded over the past 6 or 7 years due to the deep recession in the country that I don't need to go into at this point. But we need to build up capability in developing, and we need to develop our critical mass expertise in a number of areas, and Frank highlighted these, on computational science, genomics, microbiota of the human, the animal and soil microbiota in particular. It's ironic, we have a world-renowned expertise, as Fergus Shanahan pointed out, in the microbiota of the human. And it seems to me perfectly possible that we can translate many of the learnings from that outstanding work to the human and to the soils, which are critical to the development of our agricultural sector. We also need capability and expertise around digital agriculture and in the new food technologies. There is no shortage of need, but again, like so many speakers said here, it's all about getting return on investment. And the evidence is that if there is an investment in research, it does pay more than handsomely. And I think that's a message we need to keep on hammering time and time again. For us as a public sector body, and I think some of the comments that Banning Garrett made, I think were very, very important. While we want to work closely with the commercial sector, and it's essential that there is that demand pull, it is important to also point out that the research in the public sector, and I'm not just talking about Teagasc, but in the fundamental research that's undertaken in universities and so on, right across Europe, has been hugely instrumental in bringing forward these technologies themselves. And in fact, Banning made mention of an excellent book that I would recommend to all of you to read called The Entrepreneurial State, which provides several examples of the importance of investment by the public sector in technologies that have led to huge commercial benefit and indeed a benefit for all of us. So finally, if there's one message, I suppose, among the many messages that we've heard today, there's one that stuck out for me, and that's the message from Fergus Shanahan, is to mind your own microbes and they'll mind you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and safe home.